Going alpha or reverse alpha tonight?
We'll start in the middle.
Oh, God, no.
No.
No, Farrell,
Grove
here.
here.
Hemingway here.
Oh, here.
Cashew here.
Stalker here.
Walton here.
Okay, so as we've done in previous meetings, I'm going to read this announcement about the meeting being held on Zoom. Following the governor's restrictions on public meetings, this meeting is being held virtually using zoom.com for remote participation. The public may access it following the instructions on this meeting's agenda on the town calendar. If, despite our best efforts, we're not able to provide real-time access, the public can request a recording of this meeting by contacting the town clerk. So I just want to go over the agenda for tonight. So we have minutes. I didn't have the date. I didn't write down the date.
June 8th.
6/8. So I was thinking we'd do those first, then talk about the, tonight we're primarily focusing on the upcoming FinCom presentation. Then if you have anything else we need to discuss related to town meeting, we can do that too. So to talk about the format for the upcoming FinCom presentation on Thursday, review materials that we're gonna have on Thursday and a town meeting. We need to vote on the Board of Health town meeting warrant article on mosquito control. And I believe that is it. Is there anything else?
I think that's it.
Cover? Okay. So we want to do the minutes of the 8th.
Okay.
Do I hear a motion to approve?
I move we approve the minutes of June 8th.
This
there
is
a second?
from Wheezy's email immediately after the meeting
Correct.
on June 8th. Yeah.
Is there a second to that motion to approve?
I'll second the motion.
Discussion, corrections, additions, deletions?
They look good to me. Thank you, Wheezy.
Does anybody know who Meredith's last name is? If we could please require people to tell us their names, that would be really helpful.
Oh, I don't know, Meredith.
Oh, Meredith. She was on some other meeting. No. Yes, I've got her twice.
I don't know who she is.
I'll look on my old minutes. I think she's in my old minutes too.
Okay, so we'll take a vote if there are any other discussion about the minutes from Finance Committee. Okay, so we have a motion with a second to approve the minutes of June 8th, 2020. All those in favor, say aye. Farrell, aye.
Groves, aye.
Hemingway, aye.
Full aye.
Cashew, aye.
Stalker, aye.
Walton, aye.
Okay, so great. So we now want to talk about the format for the upcoming Finance Committee presentation on Thursday evening. And Eric, I think you were going to make some suggestions, because we've talked about doing this again as a webinar, which I know hasn't been the most popular format. But given the number of people that we expect, which I've heard anywhere from 50 to 100, I think it's incumbent upon us to do this in as logical and controlled manner as possible. Given that many people, we're not going to be in the same room. It's going to be a Zoom format. So,
Can I ask a technical question about the webinar format or functionality? If somebody raises their hand from the waiting room, is there a way for us to then bring that person into the webinar as one of the main participants for the purpose of, giving them the floor to ask their question and have us respond? Does anybody know if that can be done? I think that would solve some of the problems and address some of the concerns that were raised.
I don't know if that can be done, but if I might just sort of go over like what we were thinking we'd try to
Sure.
do, and then
Yeah,
come
go
back
ahead.
to your
Sorry.
question if that's
Yeah,
still a
that sounds
relevant
good.
question. The idea, and we had a meeting with Becky, Rita, myself, Melissa Makepeace, and Paul Lyons. I think that was it. Maybe I think that was the idea was like how to do this so that we can really encourage participation and at the same time not have it just be a crazy situation where like if we're trying to keep track of 100 people online.
Yeah.
We came up with a guy using the idea of the webinar, given that the purpose of the meeting really is to try to convey information about, you know, what the financial situation is in the town. And the idea is that we will try to get as many questions answered about the budget before the town meeting, to not to eliminate this discussion of the town meeting, but really just to try to cut it down as much as possible. That's Paul Lyons' interest. I know that. And the general sense is that from previous discussions we've had is that our goal of this meeting really was not to debate policy, but to sort of, for us to explain our policy and maybe different viewpoints about what the policy should be. As Rita has suggested, we are anticipating as many as 100 people. I don't know if that's true or not, but I mean, that's certainly one of the rumors out there in the street is that there may be 100 people coming.
And that's the maximum, right, Becky?
Yeah,
We have, so
hopefully we won't go over that because they won't be able to get in from what I understand.
Right.
We have a
Because
limit
of
on
the
our
limits
webinar
on-
number.
That's a positive thing. It sounds like there's a lot of interest and
Yeah.
maybe this will help do exactly what Paul's trying to accomplish and to get a lot of information out to people that have interest.
Well, the biggest takeaway to me is, and to go to AJ's question really, is we decided to ask Paul Lyons, the town moderator, if he would be the moderator. That is to say, we'll make a finance committee presentation, and then if people have questions, basically Paul will be the one who's deciding what question gets answered, how they're answered. Duplicate questions don't necessarily get answered. I mean, he'll be the one who's vetting the questions basically. And it's not me, it's not Rita, it's not one side, quote unquote, or the other. It's the moderator. It seemed like a real good way to try to make sure that everybody gets heard. And well, anyway, so we should just talk about that, but that's what we came up with the other day, was have Paul do that work. Does that answer your question?
Is Paul okay with that?
He is.
Okay. Oh, cool.
And there would be some mechanism for people to submit questions to him?
yes, they submit them in writing. And really with the webinar and ones that I've been in for work, basically what the moderator does, if 5 people ask essentially the same question, then they're screening. They're not editing the questions, but they're rather just being responsible, other than trying to have the chair of the meeting looking at 30 or 40 questions coming in. That's the role of the moderator, to then feed those questions to the finance committee. And it makes some sense for Paul to do this because he's going to be moderating town meetings. So it's
A dry run.
a little bit of a dry run.
It's a bit of a dry run, and it also will give him a sense of what questions have already been asked, you know, and like and so forth, you know.
Although that's not going to stop at a town meeting. I think,
but,
you know, it could very well be that, you know, this is not everybody's able to use Zoom. We have people who don't have internet. Some people are not comfortable with it. Town meeting is really the opportunity to, you know, be in person asking those questions. So we can't eliminate people's questions by virtue of doing the Zoom, but rather it's just it's a way to kind of get some information out there, and then people might have more questions at town meeting. So it's, you know, as Eric said, this is about getting information out about the budget and then being able to get comments, responses from the community.
And will people be able to submit those questions in real time, or would they have to do that in advance?
No,
So they
real
can,
time.
yeah. Yeah,
There's
I
a
think it sounds
Q&A
great.
with Zoom webinars. There's a Q&A window like the chat window.
I got it. Okay. Yeah, I think that's great.
So anyway,
There's
that,
actually both, I think. I think there's both, actually. No? I
No,
don't know. When my company's throwing them, we're looking in two places.
there might be. I
But-
think it depends how it gets set up. The one I was on, it was just the questions and answers.
Yeah.
The NMA one doesn't do the chat with that, but I don't know for sure if it's possible.
Melissa, I know you're with us. Did we accurately describe how it would function in your experience at Amherst College? Melissa's muted. See if I can get her to unmute.
She might have stepped away.
I'm right here. Can you hear me?
Oh, there you are. Yeah, now we can hear you. So is
Eating
that
dinner, so I apologize for that.
was that an accurate depiction of how the webinar?
Yeah, yeah. So you did a good job. You did a good job explaining, and I think it's the role that Paul's playing is he's gonna, see the questions and ask them to the group. And then Rita is going to be, the chair is going to maybe pick one of you to answer the question or so that is available. And it's just a way so that everyone can get a sense of the presentation and then questions answered. I think you did a good job, Rita. Yeah. And Eric.
thank you.
And Melissa,
Yeah.
do you have an answer to the question about can there be chats with question and answers or?
So it
Okay.
depends on your role in a webinar. So I think, Weezy, what was your role in the company ones that you did? Were you part as a participant as a webinar or?
No, I think I'm mixing up. We do sometimes have them where there's 100 people and everybody has to mute themselves. So
Okay.
I think I'm mixing that up. We've had them like 3 different ways. So it's
Yeah. I understand. There's multiple ways. So
yeah,
it's not an option for chat in a webinar, but
that's good.
the question and answer, people can submit the question. And I know Paul's not going to answer them via typing. He's going to ask the group those questions. So it'll be a verbal answer instead of a typed answer to that person who asks.
Yeah, that's what we do.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Questions from the Finance Committee members, comments, suggestions? Jim, either Jim?
No, other than what mentioned earlier, it sounds like there's a lot of interest, and that reinforces the long discussion we had last week that we ultimately ended up agreeing to go ahead and do this.
Bob?
I think it's a good idea to do it. I'm a little concerned that we'll be able to manage it. But again, I think that I would like to see the maximum of possible public involvement in this process. This has been a very weird year, and people haven't had as much opportunity as a normal year to get involved. And I'm told, or at least I've come to believe, that we're going to have a expedited town meeting, and this is supposed to be some way to shorten that. I think the whole essence of town meeting is for public involvement and decision making. So
yeah, I don't
that's
think
really what has to happen for me to be happy with it. If things just go through without people being in contact with the issues, that's not good.
Yeah, no, I much as we want an expedited town meeting, I think it's going to be really tough. So I know there's been some discussion at the select board and with Paul Lyons about whether or not there's a break in town meeting to give people, because of the setup, you know, an opportunity to take a break for an hour and then come back. I mean, it's just really awkward. It's really awkward, and it doesn't feel great
It
because,
doesn't. And to me, I really worry that we won't have a legitimate town meeting if we, I mean, I don't even know what the over-under is on who's going to show up.
yeah.
There's
Yeah,
I
good
know.
a lot of reasons why people wouldn't want to come,
Yeah,
you know, good reasons.
absolutely.
So,
Eric and Rita, how much of the information that we're looking at now is going to be available to town voters online, hopefully well before this meeting on Thursday, so that they can look it over and not just be greeted with it from you know, just from our lips, so to speak?
Sure. So I think we're going to go over that tonight, and then it should be posted and be available. So I think what we want to do this evening is look at the material that we would be using on Thursday. So everybody has, and you know, anybody who's going to participate has a opportunity to look through it and then get their questions organized before Thursday evening. So they're not doing it as necessarily as the presentation is happening.
Will the budget actually that we have discussed several times in the past, will that be posted? And things like, you know, the list of warrant articles, that hasn't turned, I guess the warrant articles have to be in by a week from the meeting, right, Becky?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Um,
Becky, why don't you go over what your sense of what will be posted is?
Okay, so
Answer Jim's
the
question.
warrant and the budget were posted yesterday. I got another announcement out today that gives the Zoom information for both your Thursday night meeting and the planning board Monday night meeting. We are working on another town meeting description of the event and what to anticipate for next week. That'll go out this week and again next week, so people can ask more questions about seating and the Board of Health. So we already have the two main documents up, and we're going to put whatever the Finance Committee wants up. And we are also collecting department head and committee reports, annual reports from everyone that will also be posted and available on the select board page. That's turning into the town meeting page for now. And we'll continue to remind people where to go, because we're only going to be able to mail out a limited number of packets, and the packets are going to be like 50 pages. And then we'll have some paper copies at town meeting. This is where it's going to get tricky. We'll have some packets prepared, but we really hope people will have printed out their own warrants and bring with them, because we can't have people rifling through tables of papers. So that's going to be tricky. And we discovered as we walked around planning where the tent's going to go in the back field, I was talking with Elaine, and her phone ended up going dead just from the heat. She had it sitting on the picnic table, and it overheated when it was 77 degrees outside. So there's multiple challenges about this. But the good news is, for one example, I was just talking to Ryan Mayu, who's our treasurer, but the chairman of the Orange Select Board. Last night, they held their town meeting, annual town meeting at the high school, and they had set up 200 chairs. They were 150 chairs short. So many people turned out. They had over 350 people turn out, and it was a very, very good meeting. They had discussion, but they ended up finishing in 2 to 3 hours, which is our goal. Oh, there's a hand up. I guess that's Mike or Melissa, I'm not sure. So that was good news.
So all this information that you're putting online is on the select board, within the select board? Because people were asking me, where can I find this? And it wasn't obvious just from going to the main page.
If you go to the home page, there's going to be, I'm going to work more with Susie on that tomorrow, that it should direct all town meeting information to the select board page. So it'll be click here for all town meeting information,
okay.
and take you to the select board page.
Okay, so that has yet to appear, so to speak.
I
Is that-
don't think she got that part up.
I don't see it on the homepage, but
Okay.
No, I don't see
Yeah,
it
she
either.
didn't get that part up yet. We'll be-
So it also has, so it's a material both for town meeting, but also for Thursday evening.
Yeah.
So, and we're going to go through the Thursday evening.
Would you, yeah,
Well, I just want to make sure that whatever we finalize tonight is available in advance of
Yep.
Thursday.
so we'll need to, we'll do a separate one just for the Thursday night presentation, so people won't get confused, and it'll take
Okay.
them straight. And then we might put that on the finance committee page. If the,
Okay. Before I get to Mike's question, any other questions from the finance committee? Comments? Mike, you're muted. Mike Vinsky. Did you have a question? Mike? I guess he's not there. Okay.
Yes, can you
Oh,
hear me?
there
Right?
you are.
Yeah, again, it was about where the documents are that we're supposed to download ourselves. And I was looking on the homepage, I didn't see it there, and then Becky mentioned it was on the select board page. So I'm there right now, so those things are there, but
Okay. And there'll be more because we're just going to go through tonight the budget report. And
that's great. The only thing is, and Becky mentioned that it's going to be advertised on the homepage, which makes a lot more sense than having it on the select board page. I never would have found it there if she had mentioned it and I had been at this meeting. The other sort of question comment I have is that the questions that are going to be able to be asked at the meeting Thursday are going to need to be typed in on a
yes, I believe you
computer then, is
used
that
that.
correct?
Yes, so you used that question and answer function before. It's a Q&A, so it's at the bottom of the screen, and that's how you ask the question. And they'll
So,
go to Paul. Paul will be, the finance committee members won't be looking at it. All those questions Paul will be looking at and then directing them to the finance committee.
so the format of the presentation is going to basically be a presentation,
Yes,
and then it's going to end, and then just going to open it up for questions and answers then. Okay,
Yes.
all right.
So we're gonna-
Again, I find it very cumbersome to have to ask a question via typing in a question, but that decision has been made, so we'll see how the meeting goes. So,
yeah, it's more the volume that we're trying to manage.
okay, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Okay, so is everybody comfortable? I assume we don't need a vote on this. We're gonna move ahead with this format.
Well,
yes.
there should.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I think there should definitely be on the homepage, some links to these, to where these documents are located. I think that's really important to have that, because if people are having
They already
little bit
said
of
they're
trou-
going to do that, so
Well,
why are we talking about it?
well, we are, and it wasn't quite certain.
She said she's going to do it tomorrow.
Okay,
But
well, let's
Rita,
hope that happens.
I would like to, on that topic, I don't think we should put our docs on a different page. I think that's really confusing. I think maybe on the select board, they can put budget hearing and then a link and then town meeting and the links.
Mhm.
And that way we're not trying to get them to go to 2 different pages to get the
Right.
stuff they need in
Yeah.
one meeting. That's really out of control.
My sense is the information will be valuable in either meeting. I wouldn't just make a distinction.
Well, yeah, that's true. But if they're looking for the budget, docs.
What's going to be presented Thursday night versus. So let's move, so why don't we move along to that? So did everybody get Becky's email with the attachments? The budget report. So there was a budget report which Lizzie had
Nice.
drafted, and then Eric and I did some, added some material with
And
Becky.
Becky added the chart too.
Becky edited the chart, right? So we made some suggestions about, I think we could end up having a lot of people Thursday night who don't have kind of the big picture overview. So I had advocated adding to the budget report just a kind of, in business terms, you do a sources and uses when you're looking at a project. So I was thinking of it in those terms, that we use our funds to pay for the budget, but where is the money coming from in order to pay for that? And because this year is more complex than some okay, is more complex, that that we have that kind of laid out, and then have the pie charts illustrating where the revenue sources, where are they coming from, and then on the expense side, how are we spending money? My sense is for the budget report, and then there's all the there's a lot of backup in the budget report, and I think we need to talk about how much of that gets detailed, because again, a lot of this is going to be like a foreign language to people. So I think we need to be careful not to be using a lot of spreadsheets and throwing around a lot of terminology. I think it's important, some people obviously are able to ask questions and understand the budget, and that's great. But I think we also need to, present a kind of the big picture first, and then we can go into more detail. So that's how, I don't know, Becky, can you pull that up?
I've got it if you want me
You
to
share it? Yeah. Can you?
Weezy, if you do, could you do the one I just sent out about at the beginning of the meeting?
Yeah, sure. I think I
Is that
have it.
different?
I think I just downloaded
I
it.
Yeah,
did-
it's got the new stuff that
two charts
Rita
on
and
it.
Eric added.
There's
Yeah,
two
with the two charts.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, so that, I should reprint it then. That the one that you just sent is different from the one I printed.
The text is identical. The only difference is the addition of the second chart.
So there are two. There
Okay,
are two charts.
I don't have to print that chart. I don't have a color printer anyway, so.
Give me 1 second. I'm just trying to get this. Did you? Yep. Oh, can you make me a host or whatever you have to do to let
Oh,
me
yeah,
share my
yeah,
screen?
sorry.
I don't know. That square up in the right-hand corner is pretty daunting. That makes me just want to gloss over. You see my screen?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so,
Is it big enough?
yep.
Okay, I can make it bigger.
So just showing uses of funds is essentially what the budget, the total budget is. And then the revenue sources come from residential taxation, commercial and personal property taxes, local receipts, estimated state aid,
There's a space here. Just
free cash. And
Yeah,
then
a question.
betterment loan.
question on free cash. How is that? I'm just not clear on why that would be considered a revenue source.
Well, I mean, maybe revenue is the wrong terminology, but we're trying to show where the funds are coming from in order to pay for the budget.
Okay. Okay.
Those are income
The
source
revenue
to-
in the sense that it's being used to pay for the $6.6 million budget.
Yeah. Okay.
Is there an underline to the left of the dollar before the 476 for a reason?
No,
Okay, I'll just make some edits as well.
thank
So-
you.
So there are two, and there's another line up.
Oh, this doesn't have a, I'm sorry. I got to put in a decimal to have here, please. There's what?
There's another line by local receipts.
Yeah, we're getting
The local receipts has a line,
yeah, we got some formatting issues here.
Right.
and as does estimated free cash. We can deal with that later.
Yeah, I'll deal with the.
But it's sort of more the concept of just presenting this, then the kind of footnotes on the side show for the residential taxes, what we're doing, what you do is you take the total levy.
So these here, whoops,
Yep.
whoops, okay.
It's important. So there are stars, and they're actually, the stars should be, yeah, estimated age should be like 2 stars.
This one here.
No, yeah, on the left, on the revenue source.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, another star there. They're kind of the footnotes, right?
Got it. 1, 2, and 3. Oops. Yeah, I gotta get.
So it's showing the total
nice.
levy divided by the assessed valuation, which changed this year. It was up about $3.4 million. Okay, that's good.
Just trying to get a little visibility here. It's kind of
Giving us the tax rate of 2263. And then state aid, we're estimating a reduction of 30%. And then we're showing the free cash that we're applying to reduce taxes and cover the loss in state aid.
Let's put some spaces up here.
So, and we're off by $1 between our sources and uses. So somewhere, we either need to round down or round up.
I'll bring $1 to the meeting.
Okay. So questions, comments
So
about,
this line, total uses, is pointing to nothing, or?
no, it should be 6 million.
So the 6 million
Yeah.
goes on that one.
Yep. Well, it's the same. Total
Yeah.
budget expenses and then your total uses.
I think we can get rid of the total usage.
Yeah, I don't
right?
think we
Yeah.
do that,
Yep,
right?
okay, good.
Much better, thank you. Do we need this in all caps for some reason?
I like the concept of doing this kind of high-level overview upfront. I think that's good. I think the charts are tough because, or at least the expenses chart, because there's so many categories and the distinctions between the smaller categories just completely disappear. So I would probably suggest on this chart that
Mhm.
we consolidate like the smallest, I don't know, like maybe the 5 or 10 smallest categories into an other and just list them sort of separately or something, just for readability. I don't know. Do other
You're-
people,
you're-
because I just think it,
The pie chart now.
yes, the pie chart,
Yeah.
which I think is the, so that should be expenses, right? The second one?
Yep.
Yeah.
So this should say expenses.
Yeah. Yeah, because the first pie chart was revenue. So my point here is just
Some
that I
could be
think,
collapsed.
yeah, I think we need to collapse some
It's
number of the
FY21.
smallest categories.
Right. Yeah, like highway and snow removal really could even, I know there's separate lines, but we could probably collapse those into one, certainly.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah. Like, why do we need the cemetery on there? I mean,
Yeah.
Well,
that's
the highway under it is snow removal, solid waste, water quality, and cemetery. They're all under the public, what do you call it?
Public Works.
Public Works.
Yeah. I would consolidate all of those into just
Okay.
Public Works, just for readability.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the fire with the EMT and other,
Yes.
okay. Because I started breaking it out because police and fire were all lumped together.
Mhm.
Should they be? Should public safety be one category?
I think it's better if it's split out. I don't know.
I think police. And
I think
fire
those are
should-
large enough that you can keep them separate.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bob,
Okay.
you had a question, Bob.
I just want to make a comment. I think that Rita's right that, could be a confusing thing for people to grasp, particularly since they haven't even seen this yet, and everything's coming up pretty quickly here on us. I think the salient point that stands out to me, which I think the Finance Committee, which voted for this budget, has to defend, is that the budget has not changed $1 since it was originally proposed or drafted before the COVID disaster. And so what this budget represents is the budget that was presented, that was actually proposed earlier this year, and the gap that's been developed from state aid and is being covered by cash, by our cash account.
Mhm.
That's really the essential fact of what this budget is. There's no reduction in spending at all. There's no attempt to reduce spending to deal with that gap. It's all being funded by cash. And there's a reduction in the levy that is also being funded by cash. So that's the big deal about this budget. That's the essence of what this budget represents that people have to understand. If they're going to approve of that, they should have to understand that's what's happening here.
Mhm. And I certainly think that can be stated, Bob. I don't see.
Yeah, it should be, because that's really
Yeah.
what, in fact, is the essential truth, is that everything is going to be funded. There's a gap that's been developed because of our anticipation that state aid will be cut. And then there's an effort of the Finance Committee to reduce the levy for a one-shot deal by dipping into the cash account. Those are the things that are really
Mhm.
big factors of this budget, it seems to me.
And I think that's illustrated in the numbers and in the footnotes, but certainly can be reinforced by a statement by you.
Yeah, and as you know, I oppose that approach. My
Mhm.
opinion is that we should spread the pain, and we should do what many towns are doing, probably most towns are doing in this year, is dealing with their expenses as well as their funding for their budgets. So again,
And I would
that's
say
what I
we were,
be able to
yeah,
say.
we were in a good enough position because we had the cash reserves that we can fill the gap in state aid and we can reduce the tax rate at the same time. But for the fact that we had significant reserves, we wouldn't have been able to do that.
That's true, but it also has to be pointed out and understood that that is another form of taxation, because this is the taxpayers' reserves that they've paid taxes on to develop. And so instead of any other, this is the way that the gap is being closed, and their taxes will be temporarily reduced, but they're spending their money doing it. It's like you lost your job and you continue to conduct your family business exactly the same way. That's what we're doing. We are in a, it's not exactly the same, but we're losing a source of our revenue, that is the state aid cut, and we're going to be making it up with our savings.
Does anyone mind if I change this to a mixed case? It's very hard to read all uppercase.
Whatever you want to do, Weezy.
So the one time that, yeah.
Yeah.
So other comments, questions?
Yeah, I think I have a different view of to be quite honest with you, with the purpose of this meeting is to kind of promote transparency and provide factual information about the budget. And I'm all in favor of the level of detail that's provided here. I think, yes, it will be hard for some people to wrap their heads around maybe some details, but this is, I think we should err on the side of, being transparent and providing information about the contents of the budget. And, Bob, that's like, you have a way of, you have a sort of perspective about the priorities, and and I think you're going to articulate that, and I think it's appropriate for you to do so. But I think you described that as the essential truth that we have to communicate in this meeting. And I think the essential truth that needs to be shared with the community are the details of the budget. And that's, I think, laid out in quite a bit of detail here. And I think that's appropriate that we do that.
Other comments, questions?
Yeah, I was basically raising my hand for the same point. I thought this was more of an informational session to pretty much bring anybody that's interested up to date on the budget, transparency to what we do have coming in from a revenue side and what's going out, and not to get into a debate on how aggressive or not aggressive we are with regard to reducing cost. One other, just a clarification thing on where we have this right now, uses, the word uses under fiscal year town budget uses. What's that term uses? What does that mean there? Because this section here looks like it's more revenue. And I think of uses, I think of spending.
This is expenses right here.
Yeah.
Why are we calling it uses instead of expenses?
I was just doing it kind of what you do with a balance sheet. You do a sources and uses.
Right, but everybody's used to the word expenses, not uses.
So
I think,
put it in as expenses.
yeah, I think that's more of a common
Okay, yeah.
term.
Right, yeah, okay. Because I haven't heard that term uses. I'm not familiar with that.
Need to get an MBA.
Oh, geez.
No thanks.
might be too late for that.
You get plenty of time now, you're retired. Leslie, you have a question. Leslie has a question.
I have two comments I'd like to make. One is, I think it's great the way the town budget expenses receipts is laid out. The pie chart is confusing. But again, when I look at the listing of the revenue sources, the whole thing about free cash, it really needs a very clear explanation as to what is free cash, where does it come from,
Yeah,
why
okay.
is it being used in this particular way.
Okay.
And I think it really behooves the finance committee to be really clear about free cash, because just as an outsider kind of looking at this, everything looks really clear. And then this free cash of $476,000 coming in. Well, what? So it begs an explanation. The other piece I just want to say is I think it would be really helpful if there could be some summary from the finance committee of what the priorities are, not just the numbers or the weeds, if you will, but what are the priorities developed by the finance committee and or the board of selectmen that is reflected in this particular budget. In plain common sense language.
Mm-hmm.
So I think one of those is that we have a policy that we like to replace the debt with transfer to stabilization. That's a policy we've had in place for 10 years. I mean, that's an example of one of our policies, if you will, or procedures.
Well, I think in general, the idea was to try to maintain, the idea is that the services, at least to me, the services are not, you know, overspent or whatever you want to look at, and that our goal is to try to maintain those services. That's one of the priorities. Maybe in the future years we won't be able to do that. Who knows? This year we can, because we have the luxury of having this free cash, which, by the way, the term itself, free cash, is confusing as far as I'm concerned. Free cash. I mean, but anyway.
That's a good point.
Maybe could it be cash reserves? Instead
No,
of free
Oh,
cash?
free
Is that-
cash. That's what it's called in Massachusetts
Yeah.
budget.
Okay, got it.
Could I put parentheses, cash reserves?
That might help.
Yeah.
Rita, what were you going to say? I'm sorry.
Well, I was going to say that we could do a definition of what is free cash and how does it get, how do we come to have those reserves?
I mean, the other thought that.
Leslie, is that what you were suggesting? What is free cash and how did we come to?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Sure.
I mean, to me, it sounded almost like instead of that being a brief footnote, maybe it could point to just a paragraph length, you know, explanation of that decision that we've made this year to apply
Okay.
that portion of
Savings.
or that amount of cash reserves
Mhm.
for the purpose of providing tax relief to you know, town residents. And Eric, I think the way you put the priority, you know, answer the question about priorities is good. I would just balance it with it's sort of about achieving a balance of, you know, preserving kind of core town services and providing tax, you know, tax relief to
Right.
town residents. I mean, we've been trying to do both those things, and that's, I think there is kind of an implicit like balancing act that underlies this, you know, this budget.
Well, to me, it's also, it's not only, it's continuing the town services, but it's also continuing the town services that the town has consistently voted to
Right.
support for years. So my sense is, in a sense, we're doing it. I'm sure some people don't agree with it, but the majority of the town historically has agreed with it. So we're doing the town's bidding. That's our goal, it seems to me. If I don't know, that's what I would say.
I think that's an important point, what you
I
just
agree.
made there, Eric, that, you know, what part of our responsibility is to try to have a sense for the overall town and what's the overall town's expectations? What are they looking for from a standpoint of spending and services and whatnot? And that's part of what we need to have a sense of going into this.
With the recognition that that a different decision could be made by town meeting, that the finance committee simply helps to, we don't even develop the budget, that the town departments come to us with their budgets. We review, look to see how they could be paid for, but ultimately it's up to town meeting to decide that they do or do not want to spend what we have come, the line items in the budget that we've come to them with. So
Right.
this is not a final town expenditures. Town meeting makes those decisions.
The one
Okay,
thing too to
other
change-
comments?
Yeah, a comment, and Leslie commented about the complexity of these charts. I think someone else was referring to complexity. I mean, to me, I think it's a pretty clear picture, the two charts. And I think the combination of the charts along with how they're presented and described and focusing maybe on the bigger pieces of the pie, you know, during the discussion part will help address any potential concerns about complexity or hard to read or whatever, or hard to comprehend. You know, maybe focus on, for example, the revenue side. Revenue is really about property taxes.
Mhm,
And in addition to, and maybe there's some discussion about property taxes as
mhm.
the big source of revenue. And then in addition to that, there's a few other smaller pieces. You know, on the same side, on the expense side, you know, the schools are the big piece for expenses.
Right.
And then there's a few others that contribute significant parts. And then beyond that, there's a bunch of other smaller pieces.
Mhm.
And so maybe it's more about the discussion around these to help address any concerns people might have about getting overwhelmed with all the information there. You know, focus on the key elements.
And I think on the, so on the income side, revenue side, what this illustrates is that we're really dependent upon residential property taxes, and that
Exactly.
as a percentage, you know, commercial, industrial, and personal property tax is really really small. And so, you know, we unlike some communities bear the burden of what it costs to run the town on the through the taxes, through residential property tax. And we have a lot of land in town that isn't taxed or is taxed at a very small amount. We have a huge amount of state land. We have a huge amount of town land, and then we have town of Amherst land. We have a lot of land in protection in the chapter 61, where they don't pay the full. In fact, they pay a very tiny fraction of if the property were not under forest or farmland protection. So that's, if you look at the map, which I think Eric and I both did this week, it was pretty shocking.
Yeah, I mean, about a third of the town is state land, which pays minimal money, pilot money, or whatever you want to call it, very minimal. And a little over a third of the land in town is also Chapter 61 land, as Rita suggests, which pays. I'm not advocating one way or the other. I'm just stating the case that, I mean, there's a lot of land in town that we can't tax, and that when you look at the whole picture of the budget, revenue and expenses, one of the big parts of problems is that we can't raise revenue in this town really without very small, the exception of very small commercial businesses, solar farms, W.W. Clark, I mean, whatever. But it's residential taxes that is what we raise the money. That's how we raise the money. More than other towns do that.
Yeah, if I may make a comment, I think you're absolutely right, both of you, when you point out that there's a lot of protected land in the town that pays provides small amount of revenue, but basically that's why we live here.
Right.
We don't live in a place where there's developments all over the place. We have the Quabbin, we have the Paul Jones Forest, we have Brushy Mountain, we have this beautiful. That's why one of the things I like about being in Shutesbury.
I agree.
It's facts. We raise our money with property taxes primarily, and property taxes are an extremely regressive form of taxing. So my point has always been that we should be extremely careful with that, and because of the unfairness, the essential badness of that system. I would love to see everybody put their federal tax returns on the table when we go around raising money for public services. Then we'll see who supports it, if they're paying a portion of their income. We'll see if they support the same things. I don't think it'll be the case. But this is what we're stuck with at the moment. I'd love to see the town try to change that somehow. But as it is right now, this is what we have. We like living here. We have to be very careful when we raise taxes because it falls on people extremely unfairly and sometimes falls on them very hard, and it forces them to leave a place that they don't want to necessarily leave. That's no good.
There's a flip side to that too, Bob, which is that, you know, these efforts that we make to reduce the tax rate benefit the most affluent members of the town as well. I mean, unequally so. So I mean, I think this is like a tricky issue, and you know, there are arguments to be made on kind of all sides of these issues. So, you know, for every, and I think that, you know, our goal here, our responsibility is to kind of balance out these things.
I don't want to make you length, but I'll just say, because you made that point at our last meeting, AJ, and I thought about that. And yeah, you're right. It does. If you pay $25,000 a year tax, you're going to get a bigger break when the rate goes down than somebody who pays $5,000. However, as a proportion of your income, it's much, much smaller. And that's really what matters. If your income is $15,000 a year, even though you get a smaller break, it's much more significant as a portion of your disposable income. So it's much, much harder for you to sustain a small increase. That's really,
Did I not see somewhere that we're lowering the average tax bill by
Yeah.
$250 on the lowest end? So that's something we ought to point out. Where is that line?
It's actually 350. The
Where
tax
is
rate
it?
is going down $1.40 per thousand.
Do you know what number that is on?
Um,
Right here, 2E. I think we should put that in red.
Bob, the only other thing
I'd be cautious about that. This is just an informational session. It's not to sell things or to get into. I don't think this is about a sales job. This is providing information to the town.
Right.
Okay.
So are you saying Bob shouldn't be voicing his opinion?
No, anybody can voice their opinion, but in terms of what we're presenting to the town as a committee, it shouldn't be highlighted in red or whatever.
Oh, you were talking about that.
Yeah.
No, I'm just saying that, you know, that's an important point. We are decreasing the average home bill tax bill by $350.
Right.
I mean, that's what you want, Bob. We're giving it to you. What do what else are we doing here?
Let's sit down and we'll go through it together and I'll explain it to you sometime. If we can ever get together.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
We're digressing here, guys.
Yeah.
Come on, Rita, get us on track. Get us on track, Rita.
I thought we were talking about the highlights of this presentation, and that's, I think, one of the biggest ones, in my opinion.
And it's there. I think it's there in the overview at the beginning, and then it's also there in the narrative. So it's
Where is it up here?
It's the first bullet point, the estimated tax rate, 2263.
Right, but that doesn't mean anything to people who can't do all that math.
People ask.
Yeah.
Rita,
Becky, yeah.
I have an issue about the local receipts.
Mhm.
I was just looking at the breakdown. Local receipts is $604,000. 351,000 of that is from pilot money. That's from the town of Amherst and the money we get for the Quabbin land.
Do you want me to break that out?
And I was thinking I can rerun the chart and break that out.
I think that's a good idea.
I think we should.
Okay.
Can you, this is pilot?
Payment in lieu of taxes.
Okay, I'll put that in parentheses. And how much was that again, Becky?
It's 351,000.
But
And that comes off of 604.
Yeah, 153.
What was it?
3.
I'm sorry.
So the difference is
253.
Yeah, 253,153.
And what are those other local receipts, Becky?
The local, that's
Excise tax.
Yeah,
I'm sorry?
Excise.
it's our motor vehicle excise tax and other department court fees, speeding tickets,
Oh, okay.
Things that people in the community pay for, a lot of it. The Medicaid reimbursement, well, that is small, but for the most part, it's what townspeople pay in fees and excise tax on their vehicles. So I I think it's important because it's not coming from the townspeople.
Right.
The 351,000 isn't coming from the
Right.
townspeople.
No, that's a
in
good
lieu of
distinction.
taxes.
Oh, that's a very good point.
Okay.
So I'll rerun the chart to show that.
So that's the, excuse me, Becky, that's the total that the MDC, the town of Amherst, and then nonprofits provide to the town?
It's not the nonprofits, it's those two. The nonprofits go into I believe the nonprofits are going into the regular taxes.
Oh, yeah.
In residential.
And
What-
so is the solar pilot is going into the regular under commercial.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
The solar pilot is a confusion of terms because it's a different acronym, isn't it? I mean,
It's the same, it's a payment in lieu of taxes, and I
Really?
originally put it in the same place, and then I was told the DOR wrote special new rules for how to account for solar pilots, and they have to be treated through new growth and added to your tax base under, I think it's industrial.
right. Huh.
And it's DCR, not MDC.
Oh, DCR, thank you.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we have a little bit from MDC too.
There's still, I didn't even think MDC existed anymore, is it?
Yeah, the Metropolitan,
District Commission.
Yeah, I thought it was gone.
No.
MDC doesn't exist anymore.
what is it called?
It's
DCR.
DCR, Becky.
It is just DCR? Thank you.
Yeah.
So you
I
can
think
take
you just
out.
take MDC right out of there. They're
Good.
gone.
Okay, moving right along. So with the changes, the tweak in the revenue sources, the collapsing of some of the expenses, that will make that a little bit easier to look at. Okay. So, has everybody had a chance to review the notes? It's sort of, it's really similar to what we've done in previous years, showing what we did in order to, well, first it goes through the operating increases and decreases, projected revenue increases, cash reserves, so forth. I think the question, I mean, we can edit this as needed if there are any edits, but the question for me is how much of this detail in items 1 through 8 needs to be discussed. Again, we're talking about the budget presentation for Thursday night.
Needs to be discussed now?
No, needs to be discussed on Thursday night. So we have, this is one of the documents. The budget report is a document that will be made available to town residents in advance of the meeting, of both the presentation, the Thursday presentation, and town meeting. But, you know, what I'd like to do, what I personally would like to see is that the Finance Committee spend no more than, say, half an hour doing its presentation, and then we answer questions for an hour, comments. And if we were to go through each one of these items, I mean, it could take a good hour. So I'm trying to get a balance here of providing enough information, but not so that people's eyes are glazed over by the time we get to the questions.
Well, I'm not sure we couldn't do it a lot faster than an hour, Rita, just because we have done this at previous town meetings, right? I mean, we've gone through this this type of very similar list. This is really the same list as we had last year, except for the numbers are different.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we could highlight it pretty quickly.
Yeah, and maybe focus on the bigger items, the bigger contributors here. Maybe that you don't have to get into the $10,000 retirement county unless somebody raises a question on it.
Right.
But the bigger items, you know, maybe spend some discussion, have some discussion on those, focus on those, and leave it to the question period if somebody has questions on some of the smaller items.
Bob, did you have a comment?
A question I actually occurred to me when listening to Doug Slaughter that you know, that Amherst was getting this bag of money from the CARES Act, and I see in these notes that there's a notation that there's some money from the CARES Act coming in. It's the first I've heard of it or noticed it. What I'm reading here doesn't immediately make sense to me. That we're getting $156,410. We applied for $9,000. So that's pretty good return. But where is that money in our budget? Is it coming into play at all? Is this offsetting the state aid cuts or what, you know?
To pay for
Okay,
PPEs and stuff, right?
You
I'll
go
respond to that, Bob. The CARES Act money, it was in the newspaper. We got a notification that, and every town in the Commonwealth, like Orange got 600,000, Lever got some, Amherst got some. The 156,000, there was some confusion in the beginning on how you can use it. So they had an FY20 deadline to apply for those funds. I've been keeping copies of all the PPEs and town meeting things and anything we had to order since March. So in going through the grant, it's very clear that these there's a lot of the things that are eligible are school related. The schools did not contact me or reach out to me until just this month. Well, actually, the region just sent an email last week because they also at the same time kept talking about their piles of, what they received in CARES money. So it was unclear how the money was going to be divided. The money that the schools received in CARE money was to replace federal programs, Title I, Title II, and some lunch program funding. So that's the money that they were applying for. The town, the money that is available to the town, it will be vetted like a FEMA grant. They'll go through all your receipts and your calculations and make sure that it's within their guidelines to receive it. They don't give you any money. You apply for it after the expenditures are made. So so they at the same time created the state redid the statute so we can deficit spend in those areas. So it's not that there's a pile of money sitting there. There's an up to amount that is listed in a grant form. And now as we start looking into FY21, I was talking to Bruce Turner at the elementary school about, we need to have further conversations because the things that the town actually incurred along these lines is very minimal. That's why it was $9,000. And so it'll be an ongoing process into FY21. We just received an email from Doug Slaughter referring to the fact that as they approach buying the PPEs and equipment they need for the coming year, they would like to handle it like capital and not assess it, but divide it up through the same method they do capital, which is the statutory method. So that money will be in play moving into this coming year. And I put it in there because I just learned about it and it hadn't been something that had been made clear in all the seminars I had gone to, and there was confusion about it. So as it's becoming clear, that's another place where the schools might find, can find relief for the needs they have in restructuring their educational programs this fall.
Right.
So I think that
I understand what you said. May I follow up?
Sure.
I think that the federal government is providing relief to communities, whether it be to schools or town governments or individuals. We have a responsibility to our taxpayers to look into all those things and avail ourselves of whatever we're qualified for. Listening to Doug Slaughter, that's when I started thinking about what are we doing along those lines. And, I'm not familiar at all with what these regulations are, but it's something we should we should be go to school on very rapidly, because these things aren't going to last forever, and we might be able to get some help. You know, we've got some problems. We might be able to get some help, and frankly, it would help the taxpayer. That's what I'm concerned about. You know.
So Becky, what would be good in that category is it's this, the $156,410 was primarily for the schools and for COVID related, or was across the
Well,
board?
I'll send you out the eligibility stuff. You know, there's an eligibility form, and the results are that it's you know, there's big sections about the school. There are some areas where the eligibility overlaps the FEMA money, which I'm also preparing to put when we get a clearer picture of where we are, put in requests for MEMA and FEMA money. So but at the beginning, all I had was a bunch of sanitizer and masks, you know, a few $100s worth. So, but we are, at this point, we've been adding in, with the flexibility in the CARES Act, I am pushing for more funding for like all the overrun costs that this has caused for town meeting, for additional postage, all sorts of things. And the Board of Health is helping. They have a little extra grant money. They're helping pay. The tent is $2,400 for town meeting. So we're putting all these things together to get relief, Bob, for the taxpayer. And I have been, you know, going to workshops and studying this so that I've been able to put in that small first grant. But it also is coordination and communication with the schools to help keep their costs under control as they make changes. You know, it's not a huge amount of money, but it's significant, you know, especially for a town like ours.
Yeah, definitely.
And do we have a sense from the schools yet about how they might be spending that money? Like, are they putting in washing stations or, you know, extra?
We talked about, I did talk to Bruce about washing stations. I have some estimates for them, and we have to do some more serious conversation about that. But just the PPEs and the amount of personal items that they will need because of the numbers of people that they'll be working with. I think they were estimating about, you know, over $20,000 just in PPEs. And they were worried about that cost. And I was like, Bruce, this is what this money is for. So we're connecting those issues, and we'll help try to bring in, you know, use every cent we can to cover any additional costs as they arise. Not every, I mean, sure, there's going to be stuff we won't be able to cover because it's all defined on how it's eligible, like IT costs, like the costs of the Zoom fees that we are using. We're able to use the CARES money to help cover that, which is great because my IT line is $2,000. And this money has you know, we're using it for the right purpose, and it will help offset in the end where we end up when we get through this.
How much does Zoom cost?
The account, we have 3 accounts for the town at $15 a month, but then the storage was insufficient, so it's another $100 a month. And
For recordings and such?
yeah, so it starts to add up in all totaled over time, and then you had to project into the future, you know, it's like $1,000.
Okay, so getting back to Thursday night, then we do the overview and then we hit the highlights from items 1 through 5 and maybe the explanation on the CARES Act money, since that's something that's totally new, would be important for people to understand what that's about.
Yeah, and also, in addition, on some of these items, maybe just give them an idea of what it really means. For example, cash reserves.
Mhm.
And there's three different there's free cash, capital stabilization, and stabilization. Maybe just a definition of what that's all about.
Amen.
Who said amen? Les?
Okay.
Yeah, so we can do that. I think we already talked about doing that with free cash, so.
Yeah.
um,
And maybe some of these other categories, just so people have an idea of what this language, like OPEB, what does
Right,
that
right.
language won't mean anything to a lot of people.
So it's maybe a glossary of terms that goes with this.
Yeah.
Hi,
Yeah.
Leslie.
The one thing I would say, just to get back to that 8G for a second, I just think maybe it should be maybe written a little bit more clear what the CARES money. Can we say that in a way that, like you say, allocated? My immediate sense is we've got the money. We don't have the money. I get that, but it'd be nice to not have to explain that, or I don't really know how to rewrite it, but
Yeah.
Let's think about that. Actually, we don't have a whole lot of time to think about it because if we're posting this tomorrow.
yeah.
So does somebody have a better word than allocated?
Allocated a potential of that amount.
Potentially allocated or
How
something.
about designated?
Has been designated to receive up to,
Yeah, that's.
Yeah,
Yeah.
2 is always a good
Covers
one.
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Has been designated. Do you have that? Uh-huh.
Up to spend
Yeah.
up to?
But
What
to
how did that go?
I said to
Up to.
receive,
To receive up to.
but it's on a reimbursement basis, right, Becky?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay, so it's on, and that's important to say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
On a
is that
reimbursement
money on a
basis.
reimbursement basis?
And it's confusing.
Where am I putting on a reimbursement basis
It's
at
not,
the end?
well, I wouldn't put reimbursement because you can put in there things that you're anticipating and haven't spent yet.
That you can get the money? Yeah,
Well, that's what's confusing because that's, you can throw in the grant, you can say, we're going to spend 29,000 on this. But if
Right.
you haven't already done it, and then they tell you, but it has to have been spent by June 30th.
Right, so
We get busy.
to reimbursement.
Yeah,
I
but
think you say on a reimbursement basis, that's.
Yeah, and we get reimbursed based on what we spent, but we're designated up to $156,000.
but it's not 100%. Yeah, it's not 100% clear. Yeah, it's reimbursement. But they haven't
If you
told
say
you when that
reimbursement, that's
happened.
close enough for our purposes here. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, because when I put in the $9,000, they didn't ask for any receipts. All I did was put it together, the list of everything I had.
Right, so,
So I reimbursed.
So $9,000 has been requested for reimbursement at this point.
and then so I would say designated to receive 156,410 of CARES money on a reimbursement basis. $9,001 has,
We have submitted
yes, reimbursement of $9,001 in expenses.
I would say we have requested reimbursement.
Request a reimbursement, okay,
Yeah, because it's not 100% clear we'll get it.
okay.
I would just add to date.
yeah, very good point, yeah.
Okay. Weezy, can you read that back, how you have it?
Can you see my screen?
Now I can. I didn't realize you were typing. Tennis designated.
You want to get rid of 4 reimbursement.
Thank you.
No,
That's
you're
all.
right. No, that's right. We have requested reimbursement of, yeah.
Reimbursement of $9,000 to date.
Yep.
Okay. To help support their needs, and maybe that needs to be more explicit, to help
Sure.
support
Expenditures.
expenditures for COVID-related equipment,
Items.
yeah, and other items, yeah.
And services.
Oh, and services too, okay.
Yeah, because I think it even talked about the additional cost of sped created by,
So if you had to send somebody to a child's house versus like, because they can come to the school,
mhm.
okay.
I might just put in the word school after regional, just because it's the regional school, I mean, as opposed to,
Oh, it is under the heading school cost. But anyway.
oh yeah, I guess it is.
Okay. Other
Is that a plural?
comments on other parts?
Yeah, just a comment, and just maybe not so much content, but where it shows up. But those first couple items in 8, section 8, are all capital related. And you've got section 6 that's capital. Would it make sense to try to pull some of those up into capital?
Well, that is there. I mean, this is
Already
there
Yeah.
for sure. This continued maintenance. I wish we had more details on that. I'd like to give you an estimate walking around that thing. It's scary how much work that the outside of that building needs.
So the school roof is
$1
redundant.
million.
It's already an
It's
upcoming.
redundant, yeah, right.
Should I get rid of it down here?
Yep.
I think so.
Yeah.
And then the next couple items are capital related.
Oh yeah, there's public storage up there.
Yeah.
So we should only have it in one place.
Yeah.
Oop. Okay, what's this? Yeah, this has not been mentioned up there.
But maybe move that as a potential capital is that a potential capital project? Or
Oh,
Well, this is upcoming.
Yeah,
what, an upcoming capital project?
Yeah, so maybe the storage of public records should be only thoughts on the future and not up here.
All right, so these are projects that are already approved?
No.
Is that what that means?
These
No.
are clearly discussing necessary projects. And then I listed the capital plan because if you look at the next 4 years on the capital plan, we have a number of other items coming up.
Yeah. But these other items like A and B could be upcoming capital plan items too, right? Or
These two?
Shorter
Well,
term.
this is
No, because
that's
they're
a
not in
huge
process.
list. Yeah,
There's
exactly.
not active definition of cost or a
Exactly.
ongoing conversation. There's conversation about the storage of public records, but there has not been a clear plan developed.
But that is up there.
okay.
How about getting rid of D since that's kind of
Okay.
trying to get it on 1 page, 2 pages, 3 pages. People are going to print this out. It's a lot of paper.
You could take another space between 4 and 5.
Yep. Oh, well, I've got it now. I shrunk the pie a little bit. I can make it.
Don't shrink the pie.
No.
we like
The
the
revenue one. anyway.
We want to expand the pie.
Expand the revenue.
No, I shrunk the expenses pie, just like Bob asked.
Shrink the expenses pie and expand the revenue pie. Yeah,
Yeah.
There you go.
good idea.
Leave it at that.
Because I wanted this to stick out a little bit. It was jammed up. I mean, do we really need to have the broadband mentioned?
No.
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 Broadband isn't showing up in this discussion at all?
And I mean, really, I don't know. Do we need that? It's really,
I think just the unemployment fund, 15,000 of free cash.
just get rid of this part.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's, otherwise it's confusing.
And in 2B, the pilot, that 119,000, that includes the solar revenue, doesn't it, Becky, or no?
Yeah. The second portion of the solar.
So should we just mention that in any place?
I
Including
don't,
solar pilot?
I think if they ask you the question, it gets very complicated to answer that question.
Yeah.
But the
Um,
problem is it's different. We have already talked about pilot up here, and we did say what that pilot was for. So why don't we kind of just make this pilot like
Solar pilot.
the solar pilot, so it looks
Yeah.
clear it's something different.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it is, but it isn't 119, is it? It's something else. It's,
That's
No.
all of it. New growth, including solar
oh,
pilot. is-
including solar, okay.
Yes.
Yeah, there we go.
Do we really need this?
Yes.
Okay. And do we need dates on the other two?
No.
Okay.
You know, one thing about broadband that Jim mentioned, I mean, it's not, we don't, maybe not listed here, but I mean, in terms of tax increases or decreases or whatever, I mean, I know that, like, I think out of 180 households surveyed last year, I know from the broadband committee, I believe that people are going to be saving like an average of $437 on their broadband bill this year. That's not a tax, but it's going to go into your pocket, just like this, like the reduction in taxes is. So I don't know where or if to mention that. I'm mentioning it to you, so everyone knows, but I don't really want to put on this or not.
Good news. We need a good news section.
Yeah, right, there you go.
Yeah, you know, the good news is the average bill's going down and you're paying less on your,
I don't know whether to we can just mention it and not write it down too, but
Yeah, I
just
think
a
that
fact
it
that
doesn't
makes
really factor into the budget.
no, it doesn't
Maybe-
factor into the
maybe-
budget in a direct sense, but the fact that the town had the money
Right.
to invest in broadband is coming, the fact that we had
Yeah.
free cash, that when broadband needed it, we could loan or whatever, give to broadband. And in fact, it's going to come back and benefit
Right.
85% of the taxpayers are going to get a pretty significant return on that. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. Good to know.
87%.
Whatever it is.
what
Yeah,
did
yeah.
you just say, Bob?
You said
I think
87%.
it is 80. It might be 87.
It is.
86.5.
A lot of people.
Maybe, just throwing this out there as an idea, this shows everything that is in the budget. One thing that is not in the budget is broadband because it's being funded through subscriptions and whatnot.
That's the word I was looking for.
Is it worth-
Yeah,
is it worth-
fees, I didn't like. Subscriptions, I was trying to think
Yeah.
of that word.
Is it worth making it just a point here that, to that point on how this is being funded and it isn't being funded through the budget?
It showed up somewhere.
Yeah, it's
It
gone
shows
now.
the
It was in the
funding
line. It was
Oh,
in the
okay.
line.
That you just got rid of.
Yeah, the
it
one you
got
just
rid of it.
erased.
Yeah, I know. So that was.
I think it could even be in the thoughts for the future thing at the way bottom, just,
Yeah.
oh, by the way.
Yeah, but it is for this year's budget too. There is no spending because it's being funded through pretty much purely through the subscription process.
Right.
I really think we should.
And I think at least for this, just to people that are trying to understand town finances, that's probably an important point.
Yeah.
He's not.
Right. Not
So-
only is there no spending, but people are actually benefiting from it in a very significant monetary way. Frankly, more than the tax decrease, probably.
That's a good point. So we're not. We're $750 a month a year richer.
That's my
Only
point.
for 1 year.
I know. Then we're in deep trouble.
If you talk about broadband, do you need to include the amount that the town invested into broadband, the 105,000 and the 274,000?
Let's not talk about broadband.
Yeah.
Everybody's so
I think
happy about
it's-
broadband. Let's not confuse them.
I think we can
Well,
mention it, but putting it here, it's not really.
Yeah, right.
the budget.
Don't mention. We'll just mention it somehow.
Yeah.
So speaking of that, who's doing the talking?
You?
Not.
Well, that's a good question. So when we get questions from.
Well, I mean, who's
by-
giving the presentation? You and
Eric and I
Stalker?
got to flip a coin.
Yeah,
Stalker and Farrell will flip a coin on the
Okay,
presentation.
good.
we'll split it up somehow.
And then the questions. Good question. What is the pleasure of the committee?
I think we're gonna have to be a little bit organic about that because, you know, some like not knowing what the questions are. I mean,
That's
you
right,
know,
that's true.
Some
We'll
of
say,
us are
AJ,
gonna.
would you like to answer that question?
I just,
If
yeah.
it's, if it's a hard question, I won't answer it. That should be one of the rules.
Okay, we'll just be organic. That's what we'll do. We'll be flexible and
Yeah.
Organic.
organic.
It's like a yoga class.
Yeah.
Just be
I
natural.
mean, like, for example, if there is a broadband related question, like it would seem logical for Jim to
Mhm.
Right.
answer that, just given his role and
Right.
his work. So, you know, like,
Sure.
I think it's going to depend on what
Okay.
comes up.
Okay.
Are there any other documents we want to review or just this one? Do we have to review the?
Well, the question is whether or not there's anything else that people feel we need to do for, you know, both for the budget presentation and for town meeting. I mean, Becky had prepared the reserve funds analysis showing what all of our reserves are, like what's being taken out. Is that something that you think makes sense to review, or do we kind of stick to this budget report and you know, we can make the reserve funds analysis available?
Well, I have a question about that document. Is it the right time to ask that question?
Yeah.
Yeah, I see that we have the account 30 money that we have as part of the articles in our town meeting to retrieve or claw back. And on this document of the reserves, I see part of that money is going into stabilization. I don't recall us ever talking about that. Why is that? And where did that come from?
Because I think that's where it came from in the
That's
first
where it
place,
came
right?
It has to go back to Eric.
Has to
Oh,
go
is that
back
right?
to
Remember
there.
that, Bob?
Give it
That's
back,
what
you have to give it back to where it
originated?
came from.
Huh?
The fund, it was funded from that account, so it goes back into it?
Yeah, we talked about this at another meeting.
Right.
I wasn't aware of that.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Thanks.
What does everyone think about going through the reserves? I have some hesitation about it. I mean, I think it's good information to be out there. You know, somebody who wants to ask questions, but I think the focus is on the budget.
Yeah, I mean, I
Agreed.
think we could go through this, the thing we've been working on all this time, the budget report, and then if there's time, or if there are questions, go to the reserve fund. I don't know. I have mixed feelings, I guess.
So for town meeting purposes, everybody would be getting the budget report, the reserve fund analysis, and the budget. Are those the, and then what I want to do, if we can, is also have a glossary of terms for Thursday night, and we can also have that available for town meeting. We're just going to have to get that together. So just maybe do the budget report, have the reserve fund analysis in case people have questions, because that's, and the budget. I mean, I don't see us on Thursday night going line by line through the budget. I think people could ask
Let's hope
specific
not.
questions, but we're going to do the budget report. And and then take questions on that. And if somebody had questions on the budget itself, time allowing, we should answer them.
Right. And that'll be somewhat up to Paul. I mean, what he decides to feed us as questions, right?
Yeah, we'll go, right. Everybody's gonna have.
Rita, you said time allowing. Is there a certain time block that we're?
Well, I believe we set an hour and a half aside, and my thinking was that the finance committee would take half an hour and then the balance is for
Okay.
questions. Does
Okay.
that sound reasonable?
Yep. And I think based on what you just described, I think you could spend a half an hour easily on these 3 pages or 4 pages here.
Right, right.
And this is, from my perspective, this is the content you want to get out there. This is all the important information. It's all on these 3 pages.
I would just like to suggest that we have that schedule that you recommend, Rita, would be fine with me. But I think that if we were in the middle of a meeting that had run over,
Yeah.
and we felt that
Yeah.
it was going to be necessary to continue, we should retain that option.
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense.
I agree with that.
Can I just go through on the glossary that I was thinking about, and anybody else throw in? So, so I had listed free cash, capital stabilization, stabilization fund, pilot, OPEB, and SREC, just because that was another thing that was on this sheet. Is there anything?
I think the
else?
tax rate is actually not clear to everybody.
Okay, how the tax rate is
Even
calculated?
how to, right, and that it's $1 per,
Oh,
know,
go over this
want
whole
that-
thing right up here.
Yeah,
yeah,
so the tax rate calculation. Okay.
yeah.
I think we might want to define Fund 30 too. Somebody will say, what is fund? Sounds like a
Yeah,
Okay.
good point.
secret, Defense Department place out in Nevada or something. Fund 30.
Anything else?
So this sentence right here goes with the third star.
What sentence are you on?
This one-time use of free cash goes with that third asterisk, right?
Yes.
Sure.
I mean, there's no reason for it to stand on its own, right?
Right.
Thank you.
Sorry, Rita, you already had
So,
capital stabilization and
Yes.
stabilization on
yeah,
your
I
list?
had
Okay,
free
yeah,
free
got it.
cash, capital stabilization, pilot, OPEB, SREC, tax rate calculation, Fund 30.
Hmm.
Anything
And
else?
pilot, did you have pilot?
Yes.
Local receipts, maybe?
Yeah.
What are local receipts?
Okay, yep.
But you got to, yeah.
Yeah, I just don't want to be defining everything.
I know.
But because it gets so long, then it gets kind of useless as a document. Okay,
How about excess levy capacity?
how about
Oh,
Oh, who's gonna do that one?
Explain that.
about shutting it down? Glossary is done. Okay, so I can't guarantee that I will have that done by the time all this goes out, but it could be available to people. I'm not staying up tonight to do this
Mhm.
glossary. And Becky, this is going to be
I thought we
posted.
called this the elementary school. I see some of the edits Becky and I.
Yeah.
Better, thank you.
SES, we may want to put that as a glossary term.
Oh, come on.
Where is SES?
Well,
Shutesbury Elementary.
I know,
somebody
but
will
I
ask.
don't see it, do I?
Somebody will wonder what it is.
Oh, come on, Eric, you can answer that.
Down here in number
I'll
4.
answer, I will answer that one.
Thank you.
Number 4.
Oh, sorry. I will spell that out.
You're not gonna have room, are you?
Bill Shutesbury, right?
You spell it right. There'll be enough room, you spell it
I know,
right.
I'm too close. I got too many computers going on here, man. I'm too close to my keyboard. I can't type. That's all we need. There, get that. Oop.
Uh-oh.
There you go. Look at your formatting.
No.
While
LCS,
Decimal
LCS.
tabs.
while he is doing that editing, as soon as this is done, Becky, are you sending this out? Is the finance committee sending? This is getting posted on the homepage of the town website, correct? And how will people get notified that this information is up there?
Okay, no, it's not getting posted on the homepage. It's
But I
getting
mean-
posted on another page, but then the homepage will say,
Yeah,
click
where?
here,
Okay.
and to see the
Gonna
finance,
be- Isn't it all on the select board page you said?
yeah, that's where it'll sit.
So there'll be a link on the homepage to
Yeah.
Select
all
board.
of this material. But how are town residents learning
know
that
that.
all of this information is there?
Well, I've sent out one town announce that said that, okay, so
Here,
You're
I got it
getting-
right here.
I've already sent out a couple, but there will be another town announce going out. I did tell people that this was coming and
Yeah.
that it would be posted on the select board page when there you go.
Yep. Dear residents, blah, blah, blah.
What if can Eric or I use town announce to just have something come directly from the finance committee?
Sure.
Yeah. Why don't we do that?
It won't come directly from you anyway.
Yeah.
It won't.
But they can sign it.
Yeah.
They can craft the
So,
email and write their names, but it's going to come from town announce.
Okay. It's just that the finance committee wants you to be aware that this information is available by going to the background information for Thursday evening is available by going to the town website. There's a link on the homepage to this background sheets for the budget report. That makes
But
sense?
did anybody read that email?
The email that you sent out,
Mm-hmm.
it was pretty dense.
Yeah, and in about 6 different fonts. It's a little
Yeah.
challenging to read.
It is very challenging to read. That's why I was wondering if there's just one that is like finance committee, because this has the
Right
planning.
here,
board.
yeah, the finance committee is
and it
right in the
has-
middle there.
Right, so that's why I'm just wondering if there's a way of kind of just
Oh.
highlighting the finance committee.
That'd be good, and also giving information of where to find the link.
Right.
The information,
It says right here, please go to Shutesbury website, select board page.
People are
first
not
sentence.
gonna, yeah, people are not gonna,
I think you need to write it in bigger font. I don't know. It's not easy, Becky. It's challenging. Everybody
well,
knows that.
the hardest part in the formatting is copying these links that
Oh, it is.
have a lot of, they're not like they started out being.
I'm
They're-
actually shocked that you're emailing them. I thought we weren't supposed to be emailing Zoom links, but we're posting them, but we're doing it. So this is the best font of the whole thing, if we can make the whole thing that. Anyway. One more time, Becky, just. Dear residents.
there's no way for it to just come from the finance committee because we don't have access.
Well, we could put it on Nextdoor, for one thing. I don't know if that.
Oh, no, that's not official.
I've never read Nextdoor in my life, nor will I
But
ever.
you know where the meeting is.
I'm with
Eric.
you
don't
on
have to worry
that one,
about it.
Eric.
I know.
Never.
I mean, somebody
Never.
could put it up there, but not as an official town announcement.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
not
that's what I'm
official.
saying.
No.
Um,
Gossip mongering.
I will post it on Nextdoor just so.
Oh,
that
no, I
it's
think that's fine.
another way for people
That's
to know
great.
about.
yeah, that's fine.
Okay, Becky, are we done with this document, everybody? I can
Yeah.
close this up and send it to Becky?
Yes.
And you'll just change out the charts?
And Becky, can you think about how best for the finance committee to maybe have its own?
Well, just do it. I'll give you the link and see how it goes.
All right.
But it's getting confusing. I mean,
I know.
if you're gonna, the purpose is so people can get to the meeting, and that's what everybody asked for. And when I do it now, it's like that the agendas are ugly. Anything that you have to put all that on is ugly.
Yeah.
So if that's the only thing that matters, then don't put on any links.
I think we could just,
There's a lot of other information there that, so people could get, that could get lost in the shuffle. I don't know, the formatting doesn't bother me at all. It's just, there's a lot of information in that letter.
yeah.
And it's
So
only-
let's do a separate one from the finance committee. And I think it will focus on, have the link to the material, and then the link to the meeting is on the meeting schedule. And we just say here, you go here for the link to the material, and you go here for the link to the Zoom. Because it's so easy. If you go to the calendar, I mean, that's how I always do it. I just go to the calendar and I click on the meeting and there's the link. So why don't we do it that way?
Sounds good.
So how do we do that? You and I do that? I'll talk to you tomorrow, Rita. Okay.
Yeah, well, Becky has to send us how we do the town announcement. So, and then maybe we just have to decide on the glossary.
Yeah, right.
It'd be really nice to have that done. Maybe there's some easy place where I can just cut and paste some of those definitions.
Probably DOR.
Or either DOR, is in our finance committee handbook, there's stuff, right, Becky?
I'm sorry. Yeah.
In the finance committee handbook. Okay, let me see how quickly I can do that.
And
Get
it's
my
in
email?
the Joe Markarian manual, I think, too.
That's what I mean. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I don't have the state Association of Finance Committees manual, but the Joe Markarian one.
You have that, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Is there a lot of verbiage with those definitions, or?
Oh,
There's
Bob,
enough.
you're going dark on us.
There's enough. We'll just try to keep it simple.
Yes, that's what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
For this
Hey,
purposes
hey,
of this,
Rita.
you want some basic, just some basic key points.
Yes. Yes.
Do we have,
You're just gonna have to
Rita,
rely.
there's
I'll
already
do the
a-
best- I'll do the best I can. Okay.
Rita, there's already a finance glossary. I'm just looking at it right now.
Oh, there is.
Yeah, and it's got,
All of those terms.
I don't know about all of them, but I just looked up stabilization. That was there.
Great.
So there's a lot. I think it's a long list, many terms. So I
AJ,
suspect
where is
a
that?
bunch of-
Is that?
So it's on the sort of the bottom of the finance committee page.
Okay.
There's a
On the
link on
website?
the right-hand side on the website. There's a link on the right-hand side under Commonwealth of Massachusetts Finance Committee documents.
Okay.
There's something called Finance Glossary.
Okay, great.
So it's something the state put together.
So that's already on our website. That tells you how much we've been to our website.
Eric, I think you put it on
I
there.
think I did.
finance glossary, right there,
You're
third
right.
from the bottom.
All right. Way to go.
Unbelievable.
Perfect.
Perfect.
Okay, great.
Okay, do we have a motion we have to pass tonight?
No. I think-
Something about mosquitoes?
Oh, mosquitoes, yes, we do.
Yeah, we should
So-
maybe try to, if we're done with this, we should get to that when we can
Yeah.
here. Are
Yes.
we ready to go to that?
Yes. I
What's
think
that
we're good.
article number, Becky?
22.
Thank you.
And
Okay,
I can read it because probably
Yeah.
people don't, we haven't sent copies of it, but that was a while back.
but they did come to us for our approval. They came to a finance committee meeting.
Yes, they did. And anyway, the article is Article 22, to see if the town will vote to become a member in the Pioneer Valley Mosquito Control District pursuant to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 252, Section 5A, and other applicable sections of said law, and fund the membership fee of $5,000 from free cash or take any action relative thereto.
I make a motion that we approve Article 22.
Second.
Discussion?
Discussion. I believe they talked to us about this very subject, and
Yeah.
We recommended
Yeah.
it. We
I
approved
thought
it.
we did recommend it, so I don't know what happened here, but
Yeah.
What happened was Catherine said that she wasn't going to, because town meeting had been delayed so badly that she didn't think they were going to be able to do the program this year. And the way she talked about it, she said, well, so don't worry about it. And so I didn't pursue putting it on the warrant. So there was confusion between the two of us. Because it turned out she really wanted to do it, but she had said not to worry about it, so there was confusion. So luckily we caught it in the last minute, and they will be able to. They are currently doing some testing on mosquitoes. There's mosquito traps up, and they're testing them now.
I was doing some testing on mosquitoes today myself. Or they were doing the testing.
They were taking blood, huh?
Yes.
Mosquitoes.
So is there further discussion on this, or are we happy with this?
There's a motion on the floor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All those in favor?
Carol, I.
Groves, aye.
Hemingway, aye.
Will I?
Ashu, aye.
Docker, aye.
Walt and I.
All right. Aye, aye.
Okay, I think that's it.
Sounds good.
Your motion to adjourn.
So
So
moved.
we will not be seeing, we'll see everybody on Thursday night. And then,
I'm
Are we
be
gonna
out
have
of
another
town.
meeting? Sorry.
Is there any tips about iPad joining it? Is it any different to join it on your iPad? Or
Yes, it is.
Is it more difficult or?
No, but all the controls are different.
All right, well.
They're
I'll
in- they're in
I'll be
different
trying to get to you
places.
on Thursday from my iPad, so we'll see what happens.
So just for upcoming meetings, is this it? Are these my last minutes?
how many, town meeting?
Wait. Don't let me.
Wait, she's gonna do another meeting.
Sorry. I just wanted to know from you guys, I've updated like the planning committee recommendation list that goes back about 10 years. You already saw this, and the property tax history sheet and the budget history sheet that goes back 10 years. I add current information every year. I typically have it available. Is that something we should have online with everything else this year?
Why not?
Sure.
Yeah,
The more the
More the
merrier,
merrier.
and let people
Yeah.
decide what they're interested in and
Yeah.
let them decide.
Good.
Have you have
Oh,
any
you weren't
suggestions?
suggesting another meeting? So the next meeting is town meeting?
yeah.
Besides
Budget
Thursday.
Presentation.
Yes,
And then
budget
town meeting.
presentation and then,
Thursday is considered a finance committee meeting, isn't it?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
For a good time, call.
Yeah.
Bob, I hope you can join us.
Yeah, well, I'll see what happens. I might just do a test run with Catherine or something and see if I can make it
the
work.
problem is it's gonna be a webinar versus whatever, but yeah,
Yeah,
you should be able to, I'm sure it'll be
I've
fine.
done regular Zoom meetings on my iPad all the time, so.
okay.
Yeah, I've seen people doing it, and with phone too. I've seen people.
Yeah,
use phone.
Phone, yep. Becky,
Bob, you can do a test. You want to do a test with me? I can send you a webinar link tomorrow at some
Yeah,
point.
that'd be great. I won't be down. I'm going to the vineyard. I won't be down there till like late afternoon, but
Okay.
yeah, try me out before you quit work or something.
Are you gonna be back in time for town meeting?
Oh, yeah, I'm coming back late this weekend. How are we going to be deployed at town meeting? I mean, the finance committee.
There's gonna, I don't know if we're gonna end up using the round tables outside. I think they do put everybody, if we have 4 people at round tables, so if we have both of them.
I may
We're
not
gonna
be
have
at town meeting.
tables near the hut. It'll be spread out with, Paul will have a little podium so he can be up a few inches above. And, but we're gonna spread the tables out for the select board and the finance committee with a moderator.
Are we going to have little bullhorns so we can talk to each other?
We're gonna have little microphones and headsets and testing 1, 2, 3.
We'll be wearing masks except when we speak or not, or even when we speak. Or
Do we have to wear
Paul
masks?
is wearing masks at all times. Paul's gonna have to, yeah, he's planning on trying to speak with a mask on. We're gonna have microphones and booms on the microphones. It's gonna be tough for Paul especially, but there'll be, you're gonna have to sneak some water. And if we're 6 feet apart, it should be okay.
So I probably won't be there. I have to go out of town. Sorry for family situation.
Okay.
All
Will
right.
everybody else be there?
Yeah.
Great.
Yes.
Yep. Okay, well, thank you. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Yeah, I so moved 5 minutes ago.
Sorry about that, Lindsay.
All those in favor, right?
Did we all do in favor? Yeah. Farrell, aye.
Do that? No, everybody, unanimous, right?
Okay.
Unanimous.
Unanimous. Okay, thank
9
you.
o'clock.
everybody.
Yay, we hit the stalker rule finally. 9 o'clock.
All right, and the
Right.
Farrell rule too. All right, good night,
Good night,
everybody.
everyone.
Good night.
Bye.
Thank you.
See
Take
you all,
care.
see you all on Thursday.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.